Hi. Hope no one minds that I keep jumping between shows a lot, but I think I'll stick with this one and circle back to the others later. I mean, the point is to learn about narcissism, not to go through shows like I'm Cinema Sins counting up all the traits of NPD or something. If I was, these would be a lot faster, just so you know.
Hey, try rolling it, morons. It's a barrel. It rolls. Jeez.
So, I know I'm super late to the bandwagon on this one, but I only just watched through the whole series about a week ago, nearly 10 years after it ended.
Oh my god.
But Breaking Bad is possibly the best show I've ever seen. I just wanted to say that first.
You're goddamn right.
Now, I thought I'd start with a reminder to everyone about what narcissistic personality disorder is. I'll try to keep this brief. Narcissus was a Greek god who fell in love with his own reflection, and then died of starvation after staring into a pool of water for too long. The term narcissist is derived from this myth, and it's used as a synonym for an intensely self-centered person. But when you're talking about narcissistic personality disorder, you're talking about a person who's taken the whole self-centeredness thing to the extreme.
No, this whole thing, all of this, it's all about me.
It signifies a person who is so selfish they can't see anyone around them as a human being with real wants or needs, and only sees them as extensions of themselves that they can choose to force into any role they want in their mind and do with as they please.
But you know the business. And I know the chemistry. Maybe you and I could partner up. Either that, or I turn you in.
They also don't have any empathy at all, and like to bully and abuse people because it makes them feel good temporarily, and they don't need any other reason.
A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
People with NPD develop the disorder from very early childhood, and it sticks them in a state of arrested development, meaning they are completely unable to mature past the age range of about 2 to maybe about 6 years old. This will always be their level of maturity. That's because, unfortunately, there is no cure for narcissistic personality disorder. There are treatments, and I've heard just going to talk therapy can be quite helpful, though to get a narcissist to go, you'd have to first convince them that something is wrong with them. And yeah, good luck with that.
All of this, falling apart like this, is on you.
Wow.
You screw up, get yourself followed by the DEA, and now suddenly, this is all my fault.
According to clevelandclinic.org, healthcare providers diagnose NPD when you have at least 5 of the following characteristics. An overinflated sense of self-importance.
It's all about me.
Constant thoughts about being more successful, powerful, smart, loved, or attractive than others.
Genius? Not so much. So to my eye, all this brilliance looks like nothing more than just simple rote copying, probably of someone else's work.
Feelings of superiority and desire to only associate with high-status people.
1,000 gallons of methylamine is worth more in my hands than it is in yours, or anyone else's for that matter.
Need for excessive admiration.
You're the smartest guy I ever met.
Sense of entitlement.
Do you know what would happen if I suddenly decided to stop going into work? A business big enough that it could be listed on the NASDAQ goes belly up. Disappears.
Willingness to take advantage of others to achieve goals, or manipulation.
Now that we're in control, no one else gets hurt.
You keep saying that, and it's bullshit every time!
Lack of understanding and consideration for other people's feelings and needs, or having no empathy.
I was there. And I watched her die.
Arrogant or snobby behaviors and attitudes.
Wipe down this!
I think most people realize that Walter White is most likely suffering from NPD. If not, I'm going to spend the bulk of this series proving it to you.
You and your pride and your ego.
Okay, let's start the show. A few things to note about Walter. For one thing, we never really know much about him before the start of the show. We learn about his history with his former business partners late in the series, Gretchen and Elliot Schwartz.
Well, is this about you and me?
And we also learn he hasn't talked to his mother in a very long time, but then she's never mentioned again, and she's not even shown. Oh, also that he's been teaching high school chemistry long enough to have taught Jesse when he was in school.
You are not how I remember you from class. I mean, like, not at all.
But that's about it. Despite not knowing much about Walter White's past, we see exactly what his life is like in the present within moments of the 3 weeks later sequence beginning. The main thing is that, unlike most narcissists, Walt seems to have taken a passive role in his own life. He lets his wife Skylar dictate how he lives. He doesn't stand up to a disrespectful student in the middle of his classroom, nor does he stand up to the unreasonable demands of his jerk boss. He's essentially allowed himself to become a passive observer of his own life. This is very unlike most people with narcissistic personality disorder, and might indicate to some that Walt isn't a narcissist yet as the show begins. But something about NPD is that, though you aren't born with it, it begins at such a young age that it becomes a lifelong condition, and you cannot develop it suddenly late in life or something. So if Walter White has narcissistic personality disorder, we can safely assume that he has it from the very beginning of the show.
Ionic bonds. Chapter 6.
In a normal social dynamic with a narcissist, they will typically do whatever they can to dominate, well, everything. Being it dominating conversations or controlling other people, etc. They will typically rule over their families with an iron fist, which might be made with a very passive-aggressive iron depending on the narcissist. But Walt is not this way at the beginning of the series and keeps up this facade long after he started his rise to the top of his criminal empire. This is because a very important part of Walter's false mask, which is what all narcissists construct in place of a personality, is that he's a man who provides for his family.
I am speaking to my family now. That no matter how it may look, I only had you in my heart.
But, for reasons known only to Walter, he seems to think that to be a good person, he has to appear weak. Then again, with how we see him behave when he's confident, this is probably a good thing.
What are you doing?
What's wrong, Chief? Having a little trouble walking?
I mean, Walt is basically a passenger at his own birthday party. He should be loving this, soaking up all the attention and forcing everyone to focusing on him as a normal narcissist would. I'm not saying this is healthy, just that's how a person with NPD would typically behave in this situation. But instead, he stands forlornly to the sides, allowing himself to be narcissistically injured over and over again. But Walter is dissatisfied with his life, and narcissists can't introspect. They can't think about why they feel the way they do at any given moment. To a narcissist, feelings are facts. If they feel a certain way, they might as well have always felt that way and will always feel that way forever and ever. And to the narcissist, whatever the reason they feel that way is everyone else's fault. If it were the narcissist's fault, this would mean they weren't perfect. And a narcissist has to view themselves as perfect at all times. Anyway, Walter's 50th birthday is just filled from beginning to end with narcissistic injuries, which is anything that hurts the narcissist's fragile ego, aka anything that indicates the narcissist is anything other than perfect. So let's count up all the narcissistic injuries that Walt feels on his birthday, why not? 1. Veggie bacon for breakfast, followed by a statement that indicates he's getting old.
That is veggie bacon. Believe it or not, 0 cholesterol, and you won't even taste the difference.
2. Skylar's subtle dig that Walter can't stand up to his boss.
You get paid till 5, you work till 5, no later.
3. Junior's subtle dig that Walt can't provide for his family and afford a new water heater.
Buy a new hot water heater.
4. Junior mentioning that Walter is old.
So, how's it feel to be old?
How does it feel to be a smartass?
5. None of the class getting excited about something that obviously excites Walt.
Chemicals.
Chemicals! No!
6. This student is disrespecting Walt during his class. 7. Walt's boss strong-arming Walt into washing tires.
Bogdan, no. We talked about this.
I'm short-handed, Walter. What am I to do?
8. Walt's former students openly making fun of him to his face for washing their tires.
Oh my god. You would not believe he's cleaning Chad's car.
9. Walt's car having a faulty latch on the glove box. Yes, this is something that can cause a narcissistic injury, and it definitely does for Walt. 10. A surprise party, which is something Walt doesn't have any control over and seems to only anger him because it reminds him how little control he has over any of his life. 11. Skylar's comment that Walt is late.
Oh, you're so very late.
12. Hank acts like a father to Walt's son.
Gun, baby. You gotta bring enough gun. 40 caliber.
This is awesome right here. Nice.
13. Hank implies Walt isn't a man.
It's just heavy.
That's why they hire men.
14. Hank makes fun of Walt for being pensive around a gun.
It's not gonna bite you, all right? Looks like Keith Richards with a glass of warm milk.
15. Hank implies intelligence is something to be ashamed of.
Well, you got a brain the size of Wisconsin. But we're not gonna hold that against you.
16. Hank steals Walt's drink during his toast to Walt. 17. Hank is on the news, putting the attention completely on him. There's something else to mention here, and that's that Walt sees the money made from selling meth on TV, and this is the first time he seems interested in anything outside of his chemistry class. Another thing that's worth noting about the series as a whole is that Walt is extremely greedy and envious like all narcissists are. And every time he sees something that he wants, he does absolutely everything in his power to get it. This is very much a narcissistic trait. They feel they're entitled to anything they want, and nothing will stop them from doing what they want, at least as long as they think they can get away with it. And this concludes Walt's 50th birthday, that's just filled with narcissistic injury after narcissistic injury. But the real icing on the cake comes the following day when Walt finds out he's dying of cancer. But the thing is that Walter reacts to this like he's hearing that he's losing money on his car insurance.
Yes. Lung cancer. Inoperable.
And like most narcissists, he comes up with some way to project his flaws by pointing out a flaw in the doctor who gave him the bad news.
Mustard on your...
Right there, you get mustard there. Right there?
Narcissists, as I said, can't accept that they have any flaws at all. Because of this, they have to project their faults onto the people around them and blame that person for whatever it is the narcissist is feeling. Typically, narcissists have a single person or scapegoat picked out already to blame the majority of their problems on. This is almost always just one person, but they'll take whoever is near when and where they feel they have to. Walt, however, doesn't seem to have a scapegoat at the very beginning of the series. It quickly becomes Skyler, however, shortly after he breaks bad. But Walt is an interesting case for a person with NPD. He seems to be living completely under his mask and not allowing the darker side of himself to get out. Then, after suffering too many narcissistic injuries, Walt loses his temper for the first time in the series. This is Narcissistic Rage, and typically it can happen after even the slightest injury to the narcissist's extremely fragile ego. Walt is effectively suppressing his inner rage, though, something all narcissists suffer from.
I'm sorry the kid here doesn't see it, but I sure as hell do. You are a time bomb.
Walt is living under a mask, which is why he keeps himself contained. All narcissist personalities are not real. It's just a mask of what they believe to be a perfect person, whatever that particular narcissist thinks that is. In Walter's case, it's that he is a family man and a good person. I think the reason that Walt doesn't treat his family like most narcissists do is because Skyler and Walter Jr. are just another part of his mask, and not people he sees as being good supply. You see, narcissists don't see others as people. They see them as little more than dolls for them to play with. Walt sees his family as basically a set piece used to convince the world that he's just your stereotypical family man, and has nothing to hide. But all narcissists have a darker side that most of them have learned that they have to hide from the world in order to be accepted. And they spend the rest of their lives trying to convince everyone around them that this mask they wear is the truth, that it's all just a lie the narcissists convince themselves is true first, before feeling the need to convince the rest of the world of the same thing. And after some quiet time playing with matches, Walt goes on a ride-along with his brother-in-law and meets Jesse for the first time since he flunked out of his chemistry class. And this is the beginning of Walter's psychotic manipulation of, well, everyone really, but especially Jesse. Their whole relationship is based on manipulation, actually.
Either that, or I turn you in.
But manipulation is the one thing that all narcissists are incredibly good at. They pride themselves on it, probably because they've spent their whole lives perfecting their techniques. They only see other people as things they can manipulate or practice with their manipulation. Walter steals from the school he works in, which is pure entitlement, and can easily be traced back to him, so it's kind of stupid on his part. Just saying. In the next scene with Jesse, Walt is blackmailing him, but still expects him to be impressed with all the stuff he has for them. Narcissists absolutely think what they do is the best thing ever, no matter what it is, and naturally expect everyone to treat them like the superstars they obviously are, no matter how reality might show this to be to the contrary. When they don't immediately show them the gratitude the narcissist thinks they deserve, they will get angry, whether or not they show it, and feel the need to devalue and abuse the other person in some way.
Did you learn nothing from my chemistry class?
No. You flunked me. Remember?
In their mind, it's never the narcissist's fault for being unimpressive. It's always the other person's fault for not being obviously blown away, and it must be because they're just too stupid to realize the narcissist's greatness. All people with NPD think they're the smartest people in the world, by the way, and I'm not even kidding.
No, this is a volumetric flask. You wouldn't cook in one of these.
Though Walt is right because he knows his chemistry better than Jesse, it is totally a narcissistic trait to always insist everything be done their way. It's their way or the highway, if you didn't know. There's one more thing to mention about a narcissist's false mask. And that's that though a person with NPD can keep that mask in place for a very long time, years even, as Walt does here, it will eventually start to slip. The darkness inside the narcissist will eventually begin to show.